why you actually want to pay for Twitter. Justin.
Absolutely. Michael Saylor and a few other people have kicked around the idea of putting up some de minimis stake, think $10, $20, perhaps in a form of cryptocurrency, to get some sort of verification with Twitter. It's been suggested a orange checkmark as a wink and a nod to Bitcoin. The reason this is important, and the reason this probably makes sense in the long run, and why you would actually want to spend money to do it, hear me out, is because it introduces the concept of friction. Why introduce friction, something that you might necessarily have a negative association with? Because it forces out the trolls, it forces out the spam bots. You paying $10 or $20 that you could potentially get back, suppose let's say you wanted to close your Twitter account, it's probably not the end of the world for you. But if you wanted to spin up some, as Saylor mentioned, some sort of Python script to flood and just do nothing but spam and harass, that's actually going to be pretty expensive, because if you're, let's say, because if you're having to spend, let's say, the equivalent of 10, 20 bucks across 10,000 accounts, now you're suddenly looking at real money. The second thing is this: it provides kind of a de facto gatekeeper, a very, very low level gatekeeper, but at least a gatekeeper nonetheless. At least in the Twitter context, here's an example of how that might work. Suppose, let's say that you have, a relatively large account, tens of thousands of followers or whatever, right? And you are just, you can't have your DMs open because you would just be assaulted by it, and all of it's worthless. But if you say, okay, hey, listen, I'll keep my DMs open, but I only keep my DMs open to people who've also been, let's say, orange verified. In this case, have put up some de minimis stake or whatnot. So it's a de facto way of saying, I certainly don't mind, having anyone follow me. I certainly don't mind taking DMs for anyone or doing any sort of one-off communication with people. But I can't stand the spam bots. And the spam bots are just so out of control that I can no longer deal with this. Going outside the realm of Twitter, there's two other examples I can think of where you would see a similar thing. Suppose, let's say, for your Gmail account or your whatever account, suppose, let's say you also had to stake, again, a de minimis factor, like $10, $20 or whatever, right? And then suppose that as long as the account was open, you had to leave it staked. But if you wanted to close your account, you'd get your money back. So just to be clear, it's still your money. If you don't want to use the account or handle anymore, it comes back. So that's taken care of. But at the same time, too, imagine if you could imagine how much more efficient, imagine how much more productivity you could get, Josh, if you didn't have to wade through, piles upon piles of spam. So this is the concept of friction. The friction that's being introduced in this system is, this $10, $20 that you have to stake or whatever. And the reason that this friction exists is because, well, you, the individual, you do it 1, 2, or 3 times, not a big deal. But if you're a bad faith actor doing this, across, 10,000, 20,000 accounts, all of a sudden $10 or $20, that's a real impediment. So I would say it's one of those things where a little bit of friction spread out across the whole actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. And for the bad actors, it really penalizes the bad actors. The last example I can point to a concept of friction, at least from my very limited experience in cryptocurrency, is XRP. So in the XRP system, there is a small transaction fee for any transaction that has to be validated by the XRP ledger itself. And the XRP is just burned. It's not going to a node. It's not going to a Validate or anything like that. It just vanishes out of existence. And again, the purported reason, which I believe to be true, because I don't have any other, insider opinion on this, is that it's to keep people from spamming the network. So yeah, sure, if you want to, run through a bunch of, bogus transactions, you can do it, but it's going to get to the point where, if you're having to spend, a half a cent or whatever right across 10,000 transactions to try to slow down the network, that's going to start to become really expensive really quick. So again, just another example of, paying half a cent or whatever to do a simple transaction. Easy. The friction is almost de minimis. It's like a mosquito hitting the windshield of an 18-wheeler. But for the bad actors who would seek to do, let's say, some sort of mass and volume attack, spam or whatever, it suddenly becomes very, very material. And that is why I would argue that you will want to spend just a little bit of skin in the game, or spend a little bit of money to get some skin in the game for Twitter, Gmail, crypto, whatever.
The fact of paying for something takes away the trolls, because trolls inherently are not going to pay for something because they want to be anonymous. Paying for something actually brings a accountability metric to the system. And when you have this for absolutely anything, and at different price points, the higher up you get on a price point, the higher level of people that are going to want to be there. Think about like a high level gym, or if you go to like a service or some sort of event that is catered toward higher class earners, that when you go there, the people that you're going to meet are going to be of a higher net worth.
Price actually is a very effective gatekeeper. Now, in the form of like a public square, like what Twitter is, you definitely want to have a gatekeeper, but you want to be very, very low. But you don't want to make it like $10,000 to post on Twitter. That's ridiculous. Or maybe if you're like some mega corporation or whatever, right? But just like, 10, 20 bucks or whatever the equivalent is. Yeah. Oh, and the best part is you get it back. Like whenever you're done or you want to shut down your account, you get it back. No issues on that front.
Yeah, and the higher up you get, it just basically acts as a gatekeeper because the more money you spend for something, the higher caliber of someone's income is going to be. So that you won't see as many trolls. You'll see people who are serious about whatever they are paying for in a very small portion. If it's just say $10 for Twitter,
It'll make the experience better for everyone because the friction or the cost of basically spamming up and, to put it bluntly, shitting all over the network and shitting over everyone else suddenly becomes cost prohibitive. Or it becomes very easy for those people who don't want to participate to be filtered out. And you do have a gatekeeper, but the gatekeeper is not like some like $10,000 like admittance. No. It's just 10 or $20. And again, just to be clear, if you ever want to shut down your account, delete your account, whatever, or back up, let's say you no longer want to have some of the orange checkmark verified. Hey, no problem. We will send back your deposit. Oh, Josh, one other thing too. There are those people who post on Twitter who it's in everyone's interest to continue for them to post anonymously. So they tie into using a crypto angle. So what's been proposed is like, a Lightning deposit. But I mean, pick your flavor, whether you want to use Lightning, ETH, Doge, whatever, right? BTC, whatever. Just pick anyone, doesn't matter. But by doing that, you also still have the ability to preserve someone's anonymity, which might be very important, particularly if the account is dealing with controversial issues or talking about controversial subjects. But at the same time, too, it also allows there to be the verification and the good trust demonstrated by the anonymous person while still maintaining their anonymous status. So I think that's a very elegant way versus like using like a credit card or a debit card or something like that to pay for it.
so this is one example on why you might actually want to pay for certain products like Twitter, for example. And the more you pay for something, it takes out a lot of the bad actors, because bad actors, while it is fun and they may get some small enjoyment for it, they are not going to spend money to just be a bad actor. Usually it's only people with the better intentions that are going to spend the money, or at least far less trolls. So
it makes it, and just one other thing in closing, the friction makes it much more expensive to be a bad actor in terms of a spam bot. And that's why the friction is actually good, because I mean, I don't mean to say that 10 or $20 is like not money. Of course it's real money, but for you and me and probably the vast majority of people, it's not that much of a hurdle. And again, like I said, no one's saying that you have to do this. Twitter can still be free to, or whatever, social media service you want can still be free to use. But just, there's this option that exists that presents a way.
Accountability for somebody who is paying the $10. That is just pretty much why friction is important, and why a lot of these products you actually want to be paying for. If you're going to a high-end event, you do not want it to be free, or they are targeting a certain audience. And with that audience, if you have a lot of people where that target audience is not going to like, then you're going to lose your target audience. And this is just the point of friction and why it is important to pay for a lot of products. So I think that is pretty much the main point of the video, Justin. And thank you. We will see you in the next one.
Take care, Josh.